The first time I rolled out the opening track, Future Now, I had just finished the basic mixing and recording of the song, and I had a couple of nieces down here who had been staying over in Egypt, and I thought, because of the nature of the track, which was kind of Arabic, and had this really nice kind of rhythmic groove to it, that they would sort of associate with that. And lo and behold, the two little girls, I mean, they were about 7 and 9 maybe, American girls brought up in Egypt. They came down here and they heard this music with Egyptian ears, so to speak, and they just loved it. And I was so encouraged by that. I said, you need to get on with the rest of the album. We rolled the table back. We were just all dancing. We were all dancing dervishes out in the room because of the tempo of that particular track, the opening track of the album. And I thought, if I can do that to an audience, even or especially if it's two young girls, then in their most impressionable years, then maybe we can have a starting point for how to bring the rest of the record out to other people. So I wanted to talk about the second track, called Existentia. That is a piece which was inspired by a word, existentia, which I found out of a book. And the word applies to a sort of a bizarre and exotic state of awareness whereby you are not aware of anything but awareness. You are not aware of anything but existence. There's no intellectual intrusions, say. There's no emotional intrusions. There's only being. There's only, the word that Aldous Huxley had was isness. And you can look it up on Google, it's there. Isness refers to this state of being whereby you are totally in the moment. In fact, there are no other moments. You're just there. And Existentia, as it unfolds as a musical piece, has to do with shamanic energy. In the track itself, there's things like didgeridoo and chanting, and there's like a centering thing, and you really have to come down to the whole, to the soul, to the center, to the one, to the total DNA. As Steve Roach once, I think, said, to the cellular level of where we're at. And I think that's where Existentia is trying to come from. With each album project I do, there's a sort of a theme, and in this case, with light music, there's the Magic 3 themes. There is no time, really. The relationship between light and sound, and the idea of existentia, which is we've talked about before. There's the state of just totally being, as opposed to thinking about stuff. It's if you get into the Buddhist books, it's all there. Sound and light it's a fun thing to think about I'm not sure if it's scientifically true. I'm still reading books. But sound and color are waveforms that are separated only merely by 40 octaves of vibrational mojo. And then the number one thing I was playing with in this album was the idea that there's no time, really. Time is an illusion. Shakespeare was right. Life is but a dream. I don't think he made that up. I think he copped that from somewhere else. But anyway, yeah, sound and light are aspects of the same thing. And yeah, and there's actually something called synesthesia. I almost thought about naming the album that, except that maybe too hard to say on the tongue, you know, too heady of a word. So I went with light music. But actually, synesthesia is a real thing. And what it is when you experience sound as color, or vice versa. And apparently, having looked it up, there are people who are famous for having this thing, this talent, or affliction, depending on your attitude. One of them, there was a list of, 10, 15. I know Leonard Bernstein had it. He was able to see sound, and vice versa. So, anyway, there is this cross reality between what we hear and what we see, and then, move it out from there into what we smell or taste, and then what all else are we able to experience with this minuscule 15% of our brain capacity, which we're all consigned as human beings to have, unless you're talking about having psychedelic or spiritual experiences, which maybe sort of push it out. But those are the three things I was playing around with. Simultaneous time or no time, sound as color and vice versa, and existentia. And I draw no conclusions. This lets me off the hook. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, but it will bring up for the person who's willing to show up, who's willing to belly up to the bar, something to think about. And certainly with this music, that'll give you an underscore. I can say this: when I put an album out, I tend to put out what you would call a program, as opposed to a series of songs that all pretty much sound the same. For what it's worth, I could be considered a wannabe movie director or playwright, which is to say that from the beginning of one of my records to the end, you're going to go from here, and then you go here and here, and then there's a twist here, and you go here and then here, and then lo and behold, there and there and there. So by the end of the record, I think this could be to my detriment or not, but I like to think that I've taken you somewhere. It's a journey. We are starting with the future now piece, and then we go to a shamanic thing, and then we go to a floaty thing, and then we go to a story thing, and then to another kind of a tone poem thing, and then onward towards the finish. And then yet at the finish we have now really started exploring the finer points of being aware without thinking, being aware without thought. I think that's ultimately where the album winds up, is that we're talking about thinking beyond thinking, knowing beyond knowing, if you will. That's probably the best way I could say. A lot of what I'm trying to do with the music of light music in particular, and my catalog in general, is not so much inform, but suggest that there is another way of thinking, another way of knowing.